Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Our coverage from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis continues this week. Today, we're going to be diving into the latest trade whispers surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers, starting with a new quote-unquote report that the Pittsburgh Steelers are pursuing Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. via trade. Then we'll get into a Bleacher Report article that predicts a whopping 4 trades for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Make sure you guys stick around to see what those trade proposals are. But before we get into the content today, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel here, guys, because whenever the Steelers make moves, and we've already had our first trade in the NFL today, the Titans and Jets made a player-for-player trade to Tavondre Sweat for Jermaine Johnson, so we're officially in business here in the National Football League. Moves could happen at any time. Aaron Rodgers could make his decision at any time. Whenever the Steelers make a move, whenever there's breaking news for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason, Ponzi and I are going to be in studio getting you guys breaking news coverage here for free right here on Steelers Talks. Make sure you guys join the family and join the over 115,000 strong already subscribed to Steelers Talk. All right, so now let's get into Andrew Filliponi's quote-unquote report today, which is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are quote-unquote in talks to trade for Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver and former first-round pick Brian Thomas Jr. This is what Pony had to say today. Source. The Steelers have been in talks with the Jaguars about wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr. Also, the two teams discussed a deal at last year's trade deadline. Thomas is going into his 3rd year and saw a big drop-off in his production last year. Now, as always, guys, take Andrew Filliponi's quote-unquote reporting with a grain of salt. His sourcing has been atrocious over the years. Some people have even, accused him of just making up sources just for a story. I don't know. Maybe he has heard something. But listen, man, Brian Thomas Jr. is somebody that is a very good wide receiver and with a lot of upside. Coming out of LSU, a former first-round pick. He went 23rd overall just 2 years ago. He's still only 23 years old. He brings great size to the table at 6'2", 209 pounds. He ran a 4.33 at that size, which is unheard of at the NFL Combine a couple years ago. And if the Steelers trade for him, they would have up to 3 more years of cost control on his rookie contract because he's a first-round player. The Steelers can accept a 5th-year option next offseason, and if they do that, they could have him under cost control on a pretty affordable rookie contract for the next 3 seasons. So he would be a pretty valuable trade asset just because of the youth, because of the upside, and because of the cost control there. But you guys can take a look at Brian Thomas Jr., what he's done in his career so far from a statistical standpoint. His first year in the league, he was unbelievable for a rookie. Over 1,200 yards receiving, 10 touchdowns, all that different stuff. But then last year, he got injured for a little bit there, and then he just didn't have the same ball skills that he had in year 1. He had a lot of drops, and as a result, the catches pretty much were cut in half. Same thing with the yardage. Only had 2 touchdowns to the 10 that he had in his rookie campaign. And Jakobi Meyers really took over the number 1 wide receiver role down the stretch for the Jacksonville Jaguars there in Liam Cohen's offense. So the thing that I'll say about potentially trading for Brian Thomas Jr., guys, is I do think it's potentially possible. Like if the Jaguars can get a good draft pick in exchange for him, maybe they would think about it, because it is a very good wide receiver draft class. If they feel like Brian Thomas Jr. isn't the future at that position and want to get a different guy, for example, if you get, a first-round pick from the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're drafting at 21, you can get like Omar Cooper Jr. or something like that to replace Brian Thomas Jr. That might be something that they would like to do if they don't feel like Brian Thomas Jr. fits what they want to do moving forward. And that's where I think the discussion starts, with a first-round pick for Brian Thomas Jr. because he's still young. He's shown a lot of upside. All these different things I think would mean, Jacksonville is probably cool keeping him. You got Jakobi Meyers, who's more of your short to intermediate, tough hands type of, crafty wide receiver. And then you got Brian Thomas Jr. as your deep threat. Those two are very complementary. But it's possible that, the Jaguars would be willing to deal BTJ for a premium draft asset. Now, on the one hand, Brian Thomas Jr. has some serious upside, and he's only 23 years old. Like, people at his size just shouldn't be able to move
move the way that he does. Like, his release package off the line of scrimmage is awesome. He just beats press like that. And he's got that 4.33 speed where he can just run away from people either on crossers or down the field. He is a premium deep threat in this league that can also run some routes. His hips are a lot more fluid than a lot of guys his size, and he does have a pretty decent route tree at his disposal, okay? He's great after the catch, all that different stuff. But on the other hand, his ball skills were a big issue in 2025. Like, he was towards the top of the league in drop rate last year, and it was a big issue on his film last year, and it was a big regression point of his, going from year one, where everyone's talking about him as maybe a future top 10 wide receiver, to a guy where it's like, are we sure that this guy is going to be, a star level guy anymore? Because, he was towards the top of the league in drop rate. So he's going to have to figure that out. I would say something on his film from last year that stands out to you is, in contested catch situations, he's not really attacking the football. He's kind of like a bigger body guy, but, he's not really, making those big plays at the catch point. And that would be concerning to me. And something that, especially if like Aaron Rodgers decides to come back next year, I'm not sure if this would be a terrific fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And honestly, there might be better wide receivers available at number 21 with your first round pick than trading it away for somebody in Brian Thomas Jr., who, yes, has shown a lot of promise and, has the upside to be a potential top 10 receiver in the game one day. But, the drops are definitely concerning, and it would give me pause about, spending my first round pick on a guy like him. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Would you trade our first round pick this year, number 21 overall, for Brian Thomas Jr.? Give me an A for accept or D for decline. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Harry's. Well, I tell you about our sponsor today. Give me an A for accept or D for decline. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Harry's. And life is all about continual improvement, guys, and that includes the products that we use every single day. Your phone is practically a supercomputer in your pocket. Cars can park and even drive themselves now. Your headphones cancel outside noise like magic. But your razor, it's likely still flimsy, overpriced, and stuck back in 2008. That's where our friends at Harry's Plus come in. Harry's Plus has an advanced pivoting system to reach every corner of your face, refined blade tech for a closer, smoother shave, and a weighted metal handle, which is Harry's heaviest handle ever for added control and comfort. It feels like an expensive shave without having to break the bank. With Harry's Plus, each blade is honed at 3 different angles to cut hair cleanly at the root without tugging. Blade spacing is optimized to glide smoothly and avoid clogging. Every cartridge includes a lubricating strip with aloe and vitamin E to calm skin while you shave. But maybe the best part about Harry's Plus, guys, is how affordable it is. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany, which means no outsourcing and no middlemen. And because they control the entire process from steel to shelf, they keep costs low and pass the savings on to you. And if you don't love your shave, Harry's is going to make it right with you guys. No questions asked. Their risk-free trial means there's zero downside to giving them a shot. And just to show you guys actually use and love Harry's products, I actually brought my Harry's Plus razor with me here today. I absolutely love the weighted metal handle on this thing, and they do have plastic products as well, which work just fine, but I personally went for kind of the more premium feel here. It gives me that barbershop quality shave every single time, but I don't have to break the bank in order to get it. So for a limited time only, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/chat. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, and a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. Just head on over to harrys.com/chat to claim this offer, and after you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. A big thank you to Harry's for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. So now, could we have a busy offseason coming up here for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Bleacher Report's Alex Ballantyne certainly thinks so, as he predicts that the Pittsburgh Steelers will make 4 trades this offseason here, acquiring different players, sending certain players away. Definitely an interesting article here. So we'll start with the first trade, which is kind of the big ticket item here in this article from Alex Ballantyne from Bleacher Report, which is a trade that would swap Nick Herbig for quarterback Mac Jones with the San Francisco 49ers. Steelers. The trade would include Mac Jones going to the Steelers and Nick Herbig going to the San Francisco 49ers, as well as a 5th-round pick from the Steelers this year, pick 159 overall. This is what Alex Ballantyne had to say about this trade. Jones is worth more to another team than he is to the Niners at this point. His 5-3 run as the starter during Brock Purdy's absence showed that he could be the next reclamation project that becomes a legitimate NFL starter. Meanwhile, Nick Herbig had a breakout campaign himself for the Steelers. He led the league in pass rush win rate and tallied 7.5 sacks. Pittsburgh is going to have a tough decision to make with a ton of money already invested in TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. If the Steelers can use Herbig to find potentially a potentially long-term answer at quarterback, that would be a good use of his breakout season. If the Niners can turn their backup quarterback into the player that leads the charge for their next generation of pass rush, that's a win for Pittsburgh. Now, my take on Mac Jones, guys, is I do not think he is like a bad quarterback and, a bad quarterback option for the Steelers. Like in a really bad quarterback market, I think Mac Jones is actually one of the better options just purely on paper. But, football isn't played on paper. It's played on a football field, and in Pittsburgh and in the AFC North, it's played outside and in the conditions. And my concern with a guy like Mac Jones is a lot of quarterbacks that go from playing in Kyle Shanahan's offense to not playing in Kyle Shanahan's offense, they play a lot worse. Jimmy Garoppolo, pretty much every quarterback except for Sam Darnold, after they leave, Kyle Shanahan, doesn't really play as well as they did when they played in his system. So that would worry me quite a bit with Mac Jones. And then also, he doesn't have a super strong arm. I think it's an okay arm, but when you get to December and you get to January and you got to play outside in the cold and in the wind, does he really have the arm that can cut through the wind and cut through the conditions? Is he that quote-unquote AFC North quarterback that Omar Khan says that the team is looking for? I don't know, and I think that if you're going to trade for Mac Jones, it's probably going to cost you the value of like a 2nd-round pick. It sounds like San Francisco doesn't really feel like they want to let him go, so you're going to have to pay a price tag that they'd be willing to accept in order to get him here in Pittsburgh. And, when it comes to Nick Herbig, like, it's an interesting idea because San Francisco does need edge rusher help, but they run a 4-3 defense, and Nick Herbig is undersized for even an outside linebacker in a 3-4, you could argue. I think he's actually the perfect size for a 3-4 outside linebacker, but like if he goes to a 4-3 system and he's asked to like set the edge and, take on a lot of responsibilities as a run defender, I don't know if that's the right fit for his skill set. I think he's best fit for a 3-4 system like the Pittsburgh Steelers is, and I think that's why he's had so much success here. But I just don't know if San Francisco would view Nick Herbig as a fit for their defense. Now, another trade that Alex Ballantyne proposes for the Steelers here is to trade Jaylen Ramsey to the Dallas Cowboys for an additional 5th-round pick. The Cowboys' 5th-rounder right now is pick 150th overall. So what Ballantyne has to say about this idea. Jaylen Ramsey has been connected to the Dallas Cowboys since he entered the league. The star defensive back has said the team told him they would draft him when they chose Ezekiel Elliott in the 2016 draft. There is risk in trading for Ramsey. He's 31 and was moved to safety in the latter half of the season in Pittsburgh. However, it probably would only cost a day 3 pick given his price tag and age. Even if the Cowboys have to keep him at safety, he would bring playmaking and leadership to the secondary. Now, personally, guys, I don't think Jaylen Ramsey is going anywhere this offseason. Omar Khan was very, very complimentary about Ramsey. He was asked point blank multiple times a couple days ago at the NFL Combine if Ramsey is a part of this team's future, and he said he answered in the affirmative every single time. It's what Khan had to say about Ramsey's future with the team. I can't say enough good things about Jaylen Ramsey. His preparation, his role will kind of shake out with the new coaching staff as he comes in, but he's got versatility. That's the beauty of Jaylen. If you want him at corner, he can play corner. At nickel, safety, there's a lot of things he can do. You can blitz him. It's exciting. I know the new coaching staff is excited to work with him. Can't say enough about what he did for us early in the season last year. He switched positions. He switched to safety. He's one of the most unselfish football players I've ever been around. Now, that's certainly a lot of praise there for Jaylen Ramsey from the guy that's making the roster decisions here in Pittsburgh this offseason. And, a common misunderstanding about Jaylen Ramsey's financial situation here in Pittsburgh is that a lot of Steelers fans think that Pittsburgh can save $19.5 million against the cap if they cut Jaylen Ramsey this offseason. That's actually untrue. Pittsburgh restructured Jaylen's contract after they traded for him last year, where essentially they reduced his base salary to the vet minimum him, and then they gave him an $18+ million option bonus. Which essentially, distributes that money over the course of many seasons. So, Over the Cap is the publication here that says, the Steelers can save $19.5 million against the cap if they cut Ramsey. They have not accounted for the restructure. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at Over the Cap projections here for the Steelers and for Jaylen Ramsey. They are incorrect. They have not accounted for the restructure of Jaylen Ramsey's contract. This is what the financial situation really breaks down to. With the restructure, his cap hit is slated to be a little bit over $17.2 million next year, not $19.5. And if you let him go, the dead cap that you would be taking on is $14.5 million. So you really only save a little bit over $2 million against the cap if you cut Jaylen Ramsey this year. So that, I think, significantly decreases the chances that they cut Jaylen this offseason. Now, you take a look here, $19.1 million next year in the cap hit, and then you get up to 31. Like, I think once we get to the 2028 season, it becomes a lot more likely Ramsey might get cut or at least restructured just because of the cap hit mixed with the lower dead cap number. But with the cap hit only being $17.2 million for this season and only being able to save like $2 million against the cap if you cut him, I just don't think it's worth cutting Jaylen Ramsey this year. Now maybe they do trade him, but it sounds like Omar wants him around, and I think the reason why he wants him around is because of that versatility, like he mentioned, but also this is a big nickel league right now, guys. Like, you look at the best defenses in the National Football League, they're big nickel defenses, and Jaylen Ramsey, I think, is one of the better big nickel players in the National Football League, even at his older age. Last year, he started at nickel, and when he was playing a true nickel, that was the best that he looked all season, in my opinion. When they asked him to play outside corner and play man-to-man against guys like Jamar Chase, I think we saw that he's no longer that kind of player anymore. But when he's allowed to, roam the middle of the field and be instinctive and blitz and, be around the line of scrimmage and be a great run defender, he's still really, really good at all that stuff, guys. And, it's really hard to find players like Jaylen Ramsey who have the length, the physicality, the instincts that he has. And I think that as a big nickel player in Patrick Graham's defense, he's going to be a hell of a football player for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2026. Now, another trade idea of a veteran being sent elsewhere here in Pittsburgh is Patrick Queen, where Ballantyne projects that the Steelers would send Patrick Queen to the Colts for a third-round pick, the number 78 overall selection. So getting an extra top 100 pick for Patrick Queen is what Ballantyne had to say about this idea. One position that could probably be drastically improved with a trade for the Colts is off-ball linebacker. The Colts need more athleticism and production in the middle of their defense, and Patrick Queen has on-the-job experience providing that. Queen's stay in Pittsburgh hasn't gone as expected. He was ranked 79th in PFF grading among the 88 eligible linebackers this season. However, his run in Baltimore, which ended with a second-team All-Pro nod, shows that he could once again be an asset if paired with the right running mate. Now, the first thing that I'll say about this idea is that if you can get a third-round pick for Patrick Queen, fucking take that deal, okay? If you can get a top 100 pick for Patrick Queen, you can use that pick on Jacob Rodriguez or, one of these awesome linebackers that are coming out in this year's NFL draft class. It's an excellent linebacker class this year. So if you can get a top 100 pick for him in a trade, I would absolutely do that if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, I kind of doubt anyone in the National Football League is going to trade a third-round pick for Patrick Queen. There's some decent linebackers in free agency this year. It's a good linebacker class in the draft. And Patrick Queen has not played terrific football the last 2 years. So if you're an NFL team, you're like, why would I spend a day 2 draft pick on Patrick Queen when he's, at this point, 2 years removed from, the one All-Pro selection he had in Baltimore a couple years back. Right now, I would say, if I had to guess, there's different reporting out there, but it sounds like a lot of the people connected with the team. Omar Khan has also said that he expects Patrick Queen to be on the team next year. I kind of feel like Queen's going to be on the football team next year. And I think that it's pretty reasonable to expect that Queen would play a lot better in this defensive scheme under Patrick Graham than how he played in Terrell Austin's scheme, which was notorious for putting linebackers in tough positions. I mean, like every single linebacker that came through here during the Terrell Austin era did not play good football, and then when they went elsewhere, they played a lot better. Robert Spillane, Devin Bush, like all these guys that left ended up playing better. Patrick Queen obviously was an All-Pro outside of that Tara Lawson system, once he comes in here, he's not quite as good. So he regressed in that system. I think now that we have Patrick Graham in here, I think that he could potentially get the most out of a physically talented player like Patrick Queen. But if you cut him, you could save $13.3 million against the cap. That could be helpful as well. I could see, Patrick Queen in that situation going a bunch of different directions this offseason, guys. But right now, I think Patrick Queen probably is on the opening day roster here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. Will Patrick Queen play better in this new defense if he's still here in 2026? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comments section. Do you think he's just an overrated player and the Steelers should just get rid of him? Or do you think he was underutilized in this defense with Tara Lawson and Mike Tomlin and think he could play better? Give me a yes or no down there in the comments section. Then the final trade in this Bleacher Report article here is the Steelers getting a cornerback for a third-round pick, trading number 85 overall for Denver Broncos CB2, Riley Moss. This is what Ballantyne has to say about this one. Moss is coming off a breakout season with the Broncos in which he had 19 passes defended. However, he's also on the final year of his rookie contract, and the Broncos have a lot of money in Patrick Surtain and Jahdae Barron waiting in the wings. If they don't plan on giving Moss a huge extension, it might make more sense to free up the role for Barron and get a nice draft pick in exchange. The Steelers would still have multiple picks in the third round and get another defender to get them a chance at an elite defense next season. Now, personally, guys, I think the Steelers are just going to re-sign either James Pierre or Asante Samuel Jr. They like both of those guys, and according to Omar Khan, they would like to re-sign both of them. This is what Omar Khan said earlier this week at the NFL Combine.
I'd say all options are on the table right now. Both players are free agents, like you mentioned. Both players are. We'd like to have both of them back. We'll see how it shakes out.
So if the Steelers end up making a trade this year, guys, I would guess it's for a wide receiver. If I had to guess right now, if they're going to trade a player away, the person that's most likely to be traded away is probably Nick Herbig, as much as I hate that, and I want to keep Nick Herbig. I do think Herbig could be a trade candidate for the Steelers this year, and then if they bring in a player via trade, I would say the position that they likely target is wide receiver, especially because we know Aaron Rodgers is likely to be coming back this year, or at least more likely than not, and if he is back, we know Rodgers works better with veteran receivers. How can you get a big name, really good veteran receiver? You could trade for them, right? So I would say keep your eye out for a trade of a wide receiver, and keep your eye out as well for potential Nick Herbig trade destinations and rumors as well as we continue on here in the 2026 offseason. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Bleacher Report is predicting 4 trades for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. Will Pittsburgh have over or under 1.5 trades this offseason? So if you think they're going to have 2 or more trades this offseason, type O for over. Or if you think they have 1 or 0 trades this offseason, type U for under. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's edition of Steelers Trade Rumors. A bunch of other stuff is probably going to be coming out as the day goes on here, guys. We're going to get another video out to you guys before Ponzi and I go home tonight to get you guys the very latest from the NFL Combine here in Indianapolis. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.